Hi, welcome to Child Care Challenge and Dilemma in Daycare. My name is Tashieanna O'Connor, and today we have Ishmael. Okay, Ishmael, you said that you've been a teacher. You were a teacher, right? Is a teacher, teacher assistant
So I was a teacher assistant or a paraprofessional
in
in
New
New
York.
York City.
Okay.
hmm Yeah,
Uh-huh.
over 18 years working with the special needs population there in the Bronx.
And when you were there for 18 years, I need to know what the challenges that you see facing those children that are special needs, and what would the dilemma within that thing. I know special need kids. A lot of people say, well, okay, there's no need to allocate more funding for them. More people like put them in a home, and that would be better. But they're human just like us. They just can't express as all we can. And so I like to. What are the funding and what you could think that could improve for the 18 years, and what have you seen over the 18 years that make you cringe and like, okay, our legislator, our elected official need to do better. We need to send a message to them. And how would you think that if by sending your message to them can improve that in New York? Then we're going to go on to everything else.
Well, I would say there were times where um, you just felt like daycare. Sometimes you just felt like you were just there to watch the kids, because sometimes you would think if their concern was their education, there would be certain things they would provide, like materials and things of that nature, but they put it a lot on the teachers to provide for themselves. And then they push things like donors choose and things like that to try to get things they need, when a lot of those things should have been material provided by the Department of Education. So teachers are often left to, scramble or just do simple things, whatever they can do. They have to buy their own printers, for example, because it's just easier than really literally coming in and waiting. All the teachers are waiting to use the copier in the main office. A whole school can't run off of just one or two large printers. So often teachers, one of the first purchases they make is their own printer, for example. And the teacher is forced to do all those things. Just more what I've seen, as far as you said, what makes you uh gives you pause a little bit, is like you see how the pulling back. Like there was a heyday, there was a time that any old timer that's within the Board of Education could tell you, there was a time where everything was provided and everything was just a joy. But it's like a slow, with each passing year, they're taking back more of the support. And it's really like trying to make bricks without straw, so to speak. Uh, Getting a little scriptural there, the Israelites, when they were prisoners in Egypt, they were forced them to continue to make the same work, but without the supports that were provided. So that's something that definitely can did make, and is still making things harder.
Okay. And you said that they rely on and donor is something about donor. I'm not that you said earlier.
Yeah, there
That
there
they
there are
push.
sites like literally, like they're like GoFundMe's.
Mhm.
Teachers are opening GoFundMe's, and there's one site called Donors Choose. That
Wow.
means for those that care to donate, a teacher presents, "Hi, I'm Mrs. Johnson, and this is my class, and these are the things I would like to do with my class. And to do those things, I need this device or this, whatever their wish list, if you will, is." And then for those that choose to donate, they can choose. It's almost like a registry, if you will. They get to choose the items that they will donate, that they will purchase from this teacher's wish list.
Okay. And then if those teachers don't get that donation, then they will have to go into their pocket, their salary and purchase this, and they making so little salary already. And
Correct.
teachers do not get enough money as they should. And I find it in the country that we live in, and we spend so much money on war in other countries that we should be able, our children should not suffer, whether they special needs or not. Our children should not be the ones suffering. American citizens should not be suffering, period. Right? And now, what have you ever been in a predicament where you have to come out your pocket within those 18 years? And if so, will you ever reimburse for those?
Fortunately, not directly. In like small ways that I really didn't mind. I can't say I had to come off of major money or anything like that. Just little things. We're doing something in class and just maybe buy a few snacks or things like that. So it hadn't been my experience directly, but there have been plenty of times with teachers that I worked with. Being the teacher, the lion's share of that did fall on them. If there was something they wanted to accomplish, they had to make it happen. Because sometimes another thing that would get done is that they would write a note to the parents saying things that they needed, or they would say, we'd like to take this trip if you'd like to contribute or something like that, because they couldn't directly ask them, you need to send this money. So either certain students would have to be left behind if no funds were sent in, or the teacher would have to try to cover those costs. So many times other arrangements would be made for those students that weren't able to pay for the trip. But yet they'd make teachers give lesson plans and proposals for reasons why they would like to take the trip and based on what and all of that. But then they're like, okay, so make it happen. They're like, we approve your lesson plan, but yet we're not going to help you do that. And then there are even times where transportation was provided, like they would use one of the school buses during the day to take a class to a destination. But then they started pulling back on that again. They were like, well, it's possible to get there on public transportation, so we're not going to provide a bus. You have to get there. And now hopefully it's an ambulatory class with, students that can walk and things of that nature. They would only provide it only for the students in wheelchairs. But for special needs students, there are times that even though they can walk, it's better to keep them contained or be able to travel by yourselves and not be in the general public sometimes. But they would, again, pull back some of those supports.
And you answered the question that I was going to ask you. What about those students that weren't able to pay? And it's sad to know that if they aren't able to pay, that they have to get left behind. Now, what legislator, and I know voting is coming up, the primary's coming up, right? A lot. And I had just had a meeting with our governor and our senator and stuff. They was all in there talking about childcare and more funding. And what's the solution they would like to see for the next 4 years. Now, since voting is coming up, what would you say to people that are in that predicament? Because every vote counts. A lot of us may say our vote don't count. If I vote, it don't make a difference. It does. Your voting does make a difference because you got to understand, the president don't make laws. The president sign and suggest laws. Okay, Congress, the House have to pass it, and then the Congress does it, and senators and so on. But how would you send a message to them about them putting in the law? If you had to send it, like you said, I hear you. The funding, teachers have to come out. So we need more funding for those teachers. So what would you say to them? What would your message be to them in order to have students with disability not being left behind because they can't afford, if the family can't afford to send the money, they can't afford to pay for the book, and teachers have to be out there asking for donation, right? It shouldn't have to be where teachers are asking for donation or they can't provide a city bus. And so, okay, wheelchair will do, but if you can walk, you could take the city bus. We can't provide school bus for you. What would your message be to our elected official?
Well, personally, I don't get political, so to speak. I choose to focus on the the solution that I found in the scripture myself. But what I would say to anyone that was in a position to um, provide these programs, sometimes they focus on the money getters. They get funding. They get funding, right? Like, for example, the more autistic students, like autism and cancer, those are two things that as soon as those things get mentioned, they get a lot of support. So if we have a certain amount, X amount of autistic students, there's a certain amount of, needs and financial. There's little price tags that come with these things. So when those things more and more students getting diagnosed or categorized as autistic, so they get the funding, but they have to agree on the practical ways that it should be spent. So that's really what it comes to, because the money is there, but they have to agree on more practical ways of providing that assistance. So my only message would be, well, imagine this your child, and they have to be taught and they have to be educated. Would you want their educators working with less or with more?
It's
So
a great
it just comes
message.
down to that.
Oh, that's a great message. Because you know what? I wouldn't want, as a parent, as a mom, I would not want my child to be working with less. More is better and the best. I want them to have quality, quality education. And I know you said you've been 18 years in New York State, and you currently in what state again? Remind me.
Michigan.
Michigan, and you was 1 year in Michigan, and then now you was 1 year doing what you was doing in New York, and
Yeah.
then now you're working as a correction officer, right? Correction educator.
I work in the school program in a correctional facility. Yes, yeah, pretty much. I'm a teacher aide there in the correctional facility, and so I'm assisting those inmates that have to get their GED while they're incarcerated. Hopefully, put them in a better standing when they return to the world, so that they can hopefully lower the rate of recidivism. That means coming back after being in the system. They're trying to lower the rate of those returning to prison. So that's what I do now.
How's that working with when it comes down to funding and what those children need?
Well, it's quite interesting. The facility where I'm at, it's the only facility in the whole state that can house youthful offenders. So that means anyone under the age of 18 has to come to our facility. Even if they're way up north in the state or way on the west side, they have to come to my facility at least until they turn 18, and then they can ride them out to whatever other facility based on their points, as it were. Their crime comes with a certain amount of points. So the higher the points, the higher level security you have to go to. We're a level 2 facility, so 5 or 4 is like a max considered. So we're level 2, but until they turn 18, they have to come to us, and then they might go to other places. So sometimes I'm dealing with 14 to 16, uh, 17-year-olds at times. I deal with other ages too, but since we specialize in the youth, that's where get to work with some of the younger ones. All males. It's an all male facility.
Okay. And for what do you think that could have been in place to help those children in the right path? What do you think that was lacking in their community? I know a lot, I hear single mom, a male role model, but based off your experience, based off talking to these kids, because I
Mm-hmm.
know most of them look up to you as not only as a brother, as a father, as an uncle, as a best friend, as a teacher, as they
Mm-hmm.
look up to you as the savior, this hero, that you are, which you are, and being there and guiding them through. And I hear you mention something earlier that I want to go back to when you said that you're not political. but you find prayers in the scriptures. And I'm a very spiritual person as well. So when
Mhm.
you talk to these kids, I know you guide them the right way. What do you
Mhm.
think that could help them, bring them in the right direction? What do you think that their community would lack in? These children that unfortunate fall in the crack of the system, of the systematic system that was created for them. What do you think
Yeah,
that could have prevent that if they had more what?
I think in many of their cases, yes, sometimes it's the lack of a positive male role model in their life. Some of them, it almost sounds stereotypical, but it is true in some cases. But many a times too, it's sometimes they're not even aware of all what's possible. They're not even aware of all the possibilities. They just look around them and they look at their family, they look at their friends, and that's just the life everyone leads. They don't realize that they are worthy, that they can have more, that they don't have to go the way everyone else has gone. I think it's like a light bulb that never got turned on for them. So I think that's the case for many of them. I remember one gentleman that I was assisting that he was, commending me for being an example, but he was saying that, that the community like needs people like that, like me. He kept saying like me, but I'm like, what about you, like you? You know, after you learn from this and you go back out there, chances are there be some youth in your community that you could get further with than I can, because I don't know their life. I haven't lived their life, but you have, and they know you. And if they can see you bounce back from this, like you are a great resource for your community. And he was like he hadn't thought of it that way, but like, yeah, So I think it's just inspiring them. They need inspiration. Most of the young people you see lot of lack of direction. They just blend in. Like they might be smart, but they know they might get funded for being smart, so they'll just stay quiet to not get made fun of and just to blend in, because that's not praised enough, I don't think, in certain communities. So it's just more that positive interaction, more options. Let them realize they have options. It's not just sometimes they get these blinders on and they think, okay, I got to drop out of school and hustle. All right, that's just how to make your way through life. Oh, I want a girl, I need money. I gotta hustle or I gotta rob somebody. And it's like just need
A tunnel vision,
oh
you're saying.
yeah,
And some of them have
like
a
just
tunnel
open up.
vision. So,
Yeah.
but how do you suggest? I hear you said, yeah, most of them are lack of positive male role model and stuff.
Mhm.
I understand what you're saying,
Sure.
but how would you suggest they get that positive male role model if no funding is there and everything? Like I go back to where funding, because if they create a resource center with these kids, I know in New York they have a lot of resources, like they have the Pell, the
Yeah.
YMCA, Big
Yeah.
Brothers, Big Sisters. So I'm like, if this and where you are, if more funding was allocated to some of those resources, though, that have them basketball, have these children in after school activity, teach these children a better way. Create a big brother and big sister fun club for them. Wouldn't you think that will help them create a positive role model outsource
Yeah.
for them?
I would say so. Community centers. I remember growing up, I grew up in the Bronx. I didn't go to any. I went to public school, but there were many after school programs and things of that nature. Community programs, places where kids can go and take some basic computer classes, that sort of thing. And that was something that was a good part of growing up. And sure, more things like that would be good. Mhm.
Okay, so and then compare, like you just said, growing up in the Bronx to where you are currently. Do you see any difference where it comes down to funding? Where you think the New York state get more funding than where you are with the state that you in now? Do you see it different when it comes down to funding and how they allocate it to the children and the resources that they have? Lack of resources?
Well, now the community that I was in when I was the 1 year in the school district here in Michigan, I hadn't gotten a chance to see like different different levels or different communities. I was at the one school, but in general, uh, I would say there were a lot of things that were provided, but I guess they were working with a smaller group, if you will. But I thought they funded the school uh, rather well, by in comparison, just comparing New York to the district that I was in Michigan. I could see that things were funded very well, and I think if a teacher did do something, it was because they wanted to. It was not because, oh, I have no other. They give me nothing here, and now I have to go spend my money. So I thought that was one difference that we had there. They were vans and buses, like transportation for trips. They definitely, even if it was a van that the teacher could use and drive themselves, and or even the teacher aides, myself, or there were like three teacher aides with the class, so one of us could drive. The school had a certain amount of vans and stuff that they could use. If multiple classes were going on trips together, then they would ask use one of the school buses. The school bus driver would drive it and stuff like that. But even if it was like their own van, there was always a way to get around. So I thought that was great.
Compared to the Bronx when you was
Right.
working in New York that they didn't have to. They have to take the city bus. And knowing that when children have special needs and going on the bus, anyone that knows about New York knows how overcrowded it could be. And
Mm,
have to confine those kids. And most of those children don't like to feel like they're being confined and the struggle of going with them. So, in other words, summarize it that you think that more funding was put in Michigan than it does in New York. They have more.
yeah, at least in the like I said, I can at least just speak for that district
Right,
that they
in that
they seem to
district.
be they were okay. Like I
No.
said, I mean, if you talk to a teacher, I'm sure there's some things that would make it that could always sweeten the pie, right? But
Mhm,
just in comparison between the
mhm.
Bronx and there, I would say by comparison they were doing better.
And what about the children now that you're working with?
Yeah, well, the way I see it, and I always heard when someone says that they were in jail or they went to prison and they get their degree and things of that nature, but it always kind of went over my head. But to actually be there and see it, there's a lot of opportunities available to them. They could definitely make a good thing come out of a bad situation, right? Like the reason they're there is bad. But while they're there, they can get their GED or a high school equivalency. That's the language they're using now, high school equivalency. And then once they get that, they can even take, there are several college programs that actually come into the prison, and they can get an associate's degree or a bachelor's, or even if they start while they're in there, those credits transfer when they go back to the world. So they have the time and focus that they wouldn't have had outside. Like I said, it's a bad situation, but there's actually a lot
I'm
of
sorry, but I'm just laughing because anyone that listens, please do not think that prison is a place to go get your
yeah,
education.
no, no, no. No, no, no. Yeah,
You're
definitely
making
not.
it be
But like
like, man, I could go there and get my free associate, my bachelor for free, my master's. I'm good. Let
right,
me
right,
go do this.
right. Yeah, but no. Definitely not. But like I said, uh given the situation and you're there, you know, and this opportunity is here for you. Now, there are some guys that, they have the option to sign, not follow the programming. They could say, no, I don't want to go to school. I don't want to do any of these things. I'm going to get it on the outside. But then I'm like, okay, but did you? Have you? You were out there. What happened? Because you say you're going to get outside, but life gets to lifing and your friends are calling, the ladies are calling, your kids are calling. Who knows what the different things are that's going to happen? So it's like, while you're here, don't worry about going out to the yard. Don't worry about getting caught up in drama in the unit. Take advantage of this here to improve yourself. And when you get out, you got something that you can hand down or that you could show your kids, your mom. You think your mom wanted this for you to be here? Like really do something. They want to hear good news. They want to hear that you're on the right track. And if they're someone that's a parolee that's going to see a parole board, I'm like, okay. I had one guy tell me, "Oh, I'm a street dude." And, he didn't say dude, but I'm a street dude. I always been a street dude, and that's it. I'm like, okay. Now, do you have to see the parole board? He said, yeah. So I'm like, okay, if you present yourself as that same street dude you've always been, what do you think their answer is going to be to you? Would you let you out? If you're the same guy, you're so sure you're the same guy, they're not going to do that. So let them see you're trying. Let them see you're in school. Let them see you're pursuing a course of study, trying to better yourself, trying not to be back where you are right now, and that opportunity. And then again, like I said, now once they get that, that's additional reason for them to hold their head high when they come out. I'm not a no account, I'm not a drag on society. Now I'm someone that can plug in and help. A lot of them are pursuing social work. That's one of the programs that they Mott Community College is the main program right now, but they're talking about doing more, expanding it. But right now, that's one of the main degrees that a lot of them get, an associate's in social work. So now they can come out and they could truly help people and know what it is like to have been down, and really help these people in their communities and programs. And, they can go out with really having something to contribute, life experience, not just book knowledge.
You said that you're not political, you're more spiritual. So how do you use that spiritual guidance towards these children?
Mhm. I try to show them that the reason why some of them are on this this kind of spiraling course is that they're not really finding the fulfillment. And some realize that now once they hit rock bottom. For some it's rock bottom. For some they just think, oh, I just got caught slipping. I'll be better next time, and they're set to continue. They're gonna, they'll be back. But for some that have had enough, that this little stint in jail is enough for them, I tell them what I experienced, because again, I don't work in that capacity, so I don't straight up preach to them, but I just try to give them another aspect to think about. What are some things that they could do that they won't have to regret, or something they haven't tried yet? I ask them, have they considered, do they read the Bible, or are they religious? And I just share with them just some thoughts that have helped me, because I'm still a human in this world too.
Right.
I'm not perfect. I've made my mistakes, you know. So
Real.
I just share with them things I've been able to appreciate. Mhm.
Okay. Okay. So it seems like there's a lot more fun in prison than it is out here.
Yeah, it is. It is a state institution.
And
So
it seems
yeah,
like
so
there's a lot to get your bachelor degree or your associate out here. It's costs a lot of money.
yeah, because I mean they do get Pell and tap, grant, that sort of thing. So they get assistance, and as far as that, goes. But it's just a lot more, like I said, it's just, I guess, just a lot more focused. Whereas out here, the help is there, but they'd have to travel to go get, and they have to do a lot more. You have to like really be a self starter and pick yourself up by your bootstraps and really get it done. Whereas there, the programs are there, you're not going anywhere. Enough of their uh, fellow inmates, or they say, "Oh, so and so just got his degree, or he's in college, or this one's doing this and that," and they kind of want to be a part. It's like reverse peer pressure, or like the best kind of peer pressure to do something good and positive, right? So I think it's just easier access, perhaps. I would say access is what it comes down to, because the
Okay, but
funding is there, like it's here, but like it
the
is in New
funding,
York, it's
right,
around. Mhm.
right, it's around and the funding is there like it's here, but do you think that the same thing that they push them towards to do in the prison, they should set up a system outside instead of having these kids have a record, having these kids go into jail to show them have a role model like you and there. Don't you think if they had that program outsourced for our young youth to show them that, listen, you know what, we could do this and have the same system that they set up in prison in the world? Do you think more kids will follow that path instead of have to go to prison to get that way?
Yeah, I think that's a valid point, because, like, even within the prison, they have a program called Man to Man. So it's where some of the youth prisoners, they meet with a group of older prisoners that are good role models, as far as obviously don't do what I did to get here, but while they're there, they're positive and can speak to them. So I think, yeah, there could be a program with, say, released prisoners that are doing well now but have made their mistakes, speaking to some at-risk youth. More than like, don't make a joke out of it, like the scared straight sort of things. They take them there. "Ooh, I'm mean," but it's like, they're not really going to hurt them. It's not really, nothing's ever really going to happen. But if they could see more examples like that in the real world, where that they could say, like, "Look, I did this and that. I did worse things than you've done, but yet look what I was able to do." It took prison for me to get myself together, but before you get to that point, how about you shape up now? Some of them have had to miss funerals of loved ones because they weren't able to get out. You know, Nigga say, you giving your mom such a hard time right now. I wish I had mine. That sort of thing. I wasn't there when she needed me, and now she's gone. Things like that would impact them. So yeah, I think a program like what you mentioned would be very valid.
And that's when we really, not being political, but we really have to think about it. And realistically, that's when we really need to let our elected officials know that, listen, our children should not have to make an error and make a mistake, go to prison to get their GED, to get equivalent, high school equivalent. Kids should not have to go to prison to have a role model like you. Young boys should not have to, and girls should not have to be in jail to say, you know what, you could get your associate degree, you could get your bachelor degree, you could have a one-on-one tutor, you could have this person that teach you about God, you could have this person that teach you the right way. Why not start the fund and put the fund for these outside sources now, to have that? Listen, this is what our kids need. Why have a system in place? Because honestly, I believe prison is just a money system, right? Why not have the system in place outside for these young children to have the four, like you said, have some ex-prisoners that already been there. Come on, be a role model. Listen, this is what it is. This is what I should do. Create a resource center. Create a community center for these children, and within that community center, show them the right path. And this is why I believe that we have to election. And like, I'm not telling everyone to vote, but our vote count. This primary election that's coming up, that we have these people going out. You have to listen to your elected official, listen to their speak, not coming out kissing these babies and hugging and smiling in front of your face when they want you to vote for them for that one time. And then when you need them through the rest of the year, okay, we have 12 months, and out of the 12 months in the year, we see them one day when that's election, once every 4 years, once every 3 years. No, we need to speak to them and let them know that, listen, we need funding for our youth. We need to stop this. We need to put a positive, a more better system in place for the youth that are outside. And this is why I'm happy that they have for the such service for these children that are inside. But what about those that are outside? That we could stop them from going inside. Why should they have to have a record to get those stuff? I
Yeah.
understand that they have it out here, but it's not like how it is out here. Because if they don't have a certain type of GPA, and if they at home they can't find food, they don't have nowhere to live, then that's the frustration that comes in.
Hmm.
So why not set that up out here?
Yeah. Like I have some inmates that refuse to. Well, they're part of their reason, right? They're like, oh, this is all a setup by the man, like, oh, having us go to school. They get money for us coming to school, and that's all the reason why they want us here. But then I'm like, okay, even if that's true, even if that's true, how does it hurt you to have your GED? What's the downside to that? You know, you're gonna just keep winging it on the streets the way you've been, which seems not to be working out. Because you're here now, so maybe try. You know, that little piece of paper, you could get a good job with the state. You could get like not just because they think too. Oh, just getting a GED that means what? So I can flip burgers at McDonald's. But it's like, no, there's other things you could do other than that. So again, it's like taking advantage of the resources that there are. Could there be more? Yes, right? That's always the case. But I always tell them, you got to decide for yourself. Are you gonna be a victim of the system, or are you gonna do what you need to do? But it's pretty interesting the way they think sometimes. You just gotta, just like I said, just turn that light bulb on and let them realize, oh, it doesn't have to be this way. And that would be good. And like you said, the more the young people could avoid that, right, before they get there, that would be great. You know,
Right.
uh,
And that's my thing is, before they get to that point where they have to come and see someone like you, and have to go to a correction facility, why not create that the same, have you out there, create that atmosphere for them? Why not have you out there, show them that, listen, there is a safe space. A lot of young men don't feel safe to discuss what they go through. Why not create that safe space for them before they get to that path? A lot of young men act out because of that. But again, we need more funding. We could create more funding to have this, and nothing could be done without money. And we know that. I stand up here, I could create, say, okay, let me start that center. But yes, still, we need money. Are we going to get funding if we start a nonprofit and go up there? You know how many paperwork we have to go through? But then, yeah, let it be a war. They don't have to go through all that paperwork. So why not fund our kids before they get to that point?
yeah,
Why not create that fund? Why not create that safe haven out here, out in the streets, out in their community? Let them see someone like themselves in their community. Create that big brother. Create that man to man. Create that dad. Create that superhero. Create that one that's gonna be there. Because from they enter school, from pre-K to fifth grade, you're already gonna know that kid that's gonna sit there, because you have to study a kid as a teacher. So
mm,
now have the space. Why not create the center? Say, you know what? These kids need more for support. You know what, send them here and start it here where they could go out there and have it. And we have to understand there's a lot of single parents out there, whether it's a mom, a dad, a grandma, a aunt, and everything, that don't have these support. And they need support, and we need to find a solution for it.
yeah. Like I try to, how they say, be the change you want to see in the world. So like I married into a family where I have nieces and nephews. So it's like I try to be that for them. In addition to not just a ideology or just good words that I just put out, but I try to live in a way that I could be that for them. And it's not always easy. Young people today have challenges on them that we never imagined,
And
and they
all
have it
over the
hard.
media. They do.
Yeah, yeah, they have it hard, and then you add social media and technology, and it just goes to a whole nother level. And we gotta just hold on tight to any young people if it's our own kids. I personally don't have any children yet, but any young people in your life, tell them you love them, you're proud of them. They don't get enough of that positive reinforcement sometimes, and they find it elsewhere. They find it in the streets, they find it in fake friends on Instagram or Facebook, social media, and they wanted, these influencers, and they're getting it from everywhere else. But we need to reinforce it. Even the things you think you don't have to say, we need to say it. Our boys, don't think, oh, they're tough, they're all right. No, tell them we love them. Give them a hug them, hold them tight. Things like that can't be overlooked.
Right, you're right. And that's what we're gonna leave it with today. Hug a boys, hug a girl, be that mother, that mom for those daughters that you want them to be. And our boys that's growing up without a dad, unfortunately, a mom can't teach a boy how to be a son. I watched my mom raise my three brothers, and today, as I know different, and I looked at it and I said, my mom didn't raise three men at all. They still suck. They still all messed up. And, they still need a lot of growing. They still need a lot of understanding. They confused. Okay. They didn't have that positive male role model, even though we grew up with my family's pretty large. But there wasn't none positive. They
Hmm.
weren't known positive. I remember my brother and I was talking, and we was talking about when we got to this country from Jamaica, and my grandma was trying to teach us positive, and me not knowing what a positive role model is and positive reinforcement, thought she was saying something negative. So what about people like those that don't never heard to anything positive, and you come telling them something positive, to them it looks negative. Like, it takes me a long time
Yeah,
to learn that, as I have kids, to see that what my grandma was saying was positive. And how do we do for people like those?
yeah. I think just consistency. Because sometimes they think, you're nice to someone, and they're like, sometimes you just say good morning to someone. If they don't know you, they kind of, before they even respond, they're looking you up and down, like, oh, what do you? You know what I mean? They're like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what's up? What
Yeah,
you want? You know what I mean? And you're like,
yeah.
but it's like naturally we get defensive. But now, if that person every morning, good morning, good morning, eventually you'd be like, okay, he hasn't asked me for money. He hasn't. You don't see him crazy. He's just a person saying good morning, and then eventually that person will say, hey, morning back to them.
Right.
But got to be consistent, and then they'll accept you at your word. They'll accept what you are because you haven't shown them anything other than what you said you were.
Okay, so
And
consistency with action, you're saying.
yes,
Positive
consistent action.
action.
Yeah, yes,
Exactly, positive. Okay, so
yeah,
you know what? And consistency with positive action. And our young boys and our young girls need the consistency and need to see a positive role model. And
yeah.
I want to thank you for being here and
Of course.
taking the time out. And I appreciate it. I would love to, maybe we could come back and think of another topic where we could help our young children.
Okay.
As a mom of eight, I don't want to see that, cause my children have their dad and have a two-parent household. I was
Right.
that one where my mom raised five kids by herself. I would
Mhm.
love to come up with a plan where we could help them and maybe write some letter to a legislator and let them know that the effect and your experience would be great to testify and let them know, like, this are the kids and this is what the kids need. Because I don't work with these children. I have a daycare. And as you
Mhm.
said earlier, feel like a daycare. No, we actually thought that.
No shade to daycare. No shade. No shade.
Like, he did not. We actually no. We actually have to prepare them to get them ready. We're not babysitters. I
Right.
know a lot of people look at us like babysitters. We don't just put them in TV and have them watch it all. Like, we do homework,
Yeah. No Barney all
second
day.
language.
Right. Right.
So I want to thank you, and
Yeah.
maybe you could write some letters one day. Send some
Yeah.
things, talk to your legislator, that help these children. Let's help our inner city kids. I know where you are; it's not so much inner city like New York, but
Sure.
they still need help no matter where they are, right?
Yeah.
No matter
Very
how
true.
rich the state is, no matter how poor the state is, no matter how large or small, we always have that 1% that need it, or that 10%, that 20% that need it, right? So we trying to close that gap. And thank you for joining Daycare
Cool.
Challenge and Dilemma within Daycare, childcare.
All
I'm
right.
saying it all wrong, but thank you. it's child,
Take
it's
two.
it's childcare challenges and dilemma in daycare. But thank you, and I appreciate you being here. Okay.
Okay. No problem.